If we could stand for the opening karakia, please. Whakataka, taho. Excellent. We've got quite a big agenda, so I'm keen to keep it moving today. First of all, we've got apologies from Nathaniel and a partial absence for apologies for absence from Nathaniel, a partial from the Mayor, and lateness from Councillor McClellan. I'll move. Oh, and Celeste.
And sorry, early departure. I've got a board meeting.
Cool. What time are you out?
It's at 12, so I'll pick up just for then.
Okay, cool. And Celeste early departure. So I'm happy to move that. Victoria's happy to second it. All in favour? Against? That's carried. We'll just note the declarations of interest, and if anything else crops up, note it. But there's a list of them there. We'll then go to the minutes from the previous meeting. I'm happy to move those. Mark's happy to second them. All in favour? Against? That's carried. There's no public forum, no deputations, and no petitions, which leads us firstly to Peter Ryan's report, item number 7. So Pete, do you want to come on up?
Right, good morning everyone. Just a little preamble to these results. We'll move through them fairly quickly, but I do want to spend a moment at the beginning. I know you see a lot of numbers at this table and they can start to blur a little bit over time. I'd urge you to see this next set with fresh eyes because they are the big ones. These are the vital few that represent literally thousands of people and hundreds of millions of dollars. So we've been monitoring these for almost 20 years, and yes, there are still things to work on. There will always be things to work on, but this is the best overall set of results we've seen in that time. I'm going to move to the table on page 2 of the report, which is the summary, and just move through those summary results with you. Service delivery is listed there as 90.2, historic high. It's actually 91 when you include the resident survey results, 91.2. We picked up a few more in there. That's the highest it's ever been. And I think that given that we're at the end of the third quarter, that's probably about where we'll end up for the year. So that is across all of our literally hundreds of services. There's still some things to pick up in there. I should point out also the standards have not changed. These are not easier goals. They're probably harder when you look at tomato ROI and all of the central government impositions that have come down on us. Management levels of service, so this is about efficiency, also well above goal, well above target and a high. And of course the resident survey result, you'll be hearing from Kath Jamieson later this morning. She'll be doing a detailed presentation, I think, just after morning tea. But that is also well up and trending up for the third or fourth year in a row. We'll do a bit more on that later. Capital Works, watch list, again, high, well above goal. I'll come back to how we're performing at Capital a little bit later at the end. Non-watch list will make it to 85. We're working with the Capital Program and PMO. I'm quite confident that will come in over the next quarter. And the 2 planning goals, being ready for next year and 28-29, they will both tick over the line by end of year. We're quite close. Value for money, overall the budget is fine and we're in fact in surplus. But that indicates there's a single activity out of the 39 that's not on budget, water supply. So that one out of 39 is not too bad. And there are reasons which are in the report and in the finance report for that. Lastly, deliver overall capital program within approved budget, where our goal was to be no more than 10% underspent. We're just over at 11. That's still extremely good. Historically, we've actually carried forward a lot more than that in the past. And I just want to point out, without making too big a deal of it, some reports around central government delivery of capital, Business Desk and some others that indicate that for the quarter before Christmas, central government was delivering 49% compared to we're at 89. So look, there's always room to be better, but these are very strong, as a set, these are very strong results.
I could listen to you all day, Peter, if you'd like, but I'll just replay it later. No, look, hey, thank you for doing that, and it is good to get your perspective because you've been and you know this stuff inside out, so it's really good. So, did you say 20 years or?
Yeah, the records for these goals only go back 20 years. This is the strongest set in that 20.
In that 20 years,
and that's obviously including pre-quake.
Yeah, no, that is brilliant. And I guess the only one I had, and then if anyone's got questions, is around that capital program. And I guess it's sort of like, I mean, these are an opportunity to look back and go how well we're doing and how the team have sort of lifted their game and really delivered. But actually, one of the things the council have done as we move into the long-term plan is put more of a focus on that capital delivery. So I guess it's like, hey, the good ones are going really well. The ones where we're slightly behind, the council have already sent you a direction that we want that sorted. So hopefully that helps.
It does. I mean, Paul could go into a bit more detail, but overall, firstly, setting the size of a program that's actually achievable is a big deal. Yep. We have had years where it was simply far more than we could possibly deliver. So being realistic about affordability, deliverability, that was a big start. The letter for the LTP actually continues that through. Yep. So hopefully these kind of results will continue on in the future because things are right-sized.
Yeah. And I guess the other side, it's like anything, isn't it? With numbers, sometimes you can look at it different ways. But,
yep.
You know, if I think about that delivery one where it hasn't quite hit the mark around the 11%, actually that's on a smaller base. So, you know, we started, you know, I remember when I first came to council in 2019, the capital programs were sort of out of control in terms of the values we were putting in. So I guess it's a smaller variance on a smaller base.
That's right. I mean, we have had carry forwards of in the 20s and 30%.
Yeah. Yeah.
Which
would be far more than the 50 million type thing.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay. Awesome. Does anyone have any questions on this, or we'll delve into it in capital and finance? Great. Hey, well done and good result, and you can come back any time with those results. So I'm happy to move that. The Mayor's happy to second it. All in favour? Against? That's carry. Thank you. And well done to the team if anyone's watching. That's really good.
Thank you.
Excellent. Bruce. Mitch. Come on up and let's go item 8, the financial report.
Morning, councillors. So with our financial report, as was alluded to at last month's F&P, we've done a significant amount of work updating and reviewing the forecast for our remaining costs and revenues for this financial year. That has resulted in an improved forecast operating surplus after carry forwards of $44 million at the end of this financial year, which is a $19 million improvement. So that improvement has largely been driven by increases in our forecast for subvention receipts based on updated forecasts from our subsidiaries, recognising savings due to ongoing vacancies, savings in solid waste operating and maintenance costs, and some additional revenues primarily in the rec and sport space and importantly, lower debt servicing, so our interest expense and revenue costs as a result of the savings in the capital program due to lower expenditure there. As Peter alluded to, of the external activities, only one is currently forecasting to be overspent come financial year end, which is water supply. However, it's worth noting that the overall waters activities are forecasting to be under budget come financial year end. We've got a $74 million reduction in borrowing at year end currently forecast, and that's primarily driven by the reduction in capital expenditure. Happy to take any questions.
Great. Hey, thank you for that. And I guess the water overspend, but like you say, holistically, it's actually under. I mean, in many respects, you know, it's weird to say this in a finance meeting, but we kind of want money to be spent on water. So as long as we're getting the value for money out of it, it's actually an area of the business where the organisation where it's a good thing to be spending on water. So that's hardly the end of the world. I mean, I guess it's good also in terms of just finally landing a surplus or an updated forecast. And thanks to the team for getting that, because there's nothing worse than it creeping up. We just need a bit of certainty as we hit year end, so we can make decisions with the annual plan. So, does anyone have any questions on the finance report? I just wonder, I'll come to you, Yanni. I just wonder, Mitch, do you want to just talk to any of the, or is there anything you can add, I guess, in the current environment around what's sort of happening overseas that may have an impact on us?
So that was going to be my question as well.
Oh,
so,
cool.
yeah,
Okay, great.
cool, thanks.
So this report was largely written before the evolving situation internationally. In terms of risks, the primary risk to our forecast and future years' budgets is inflationary, in that there will be likely higher input costs to council, just due to the logistical costs and all the inputs that council produces or requires, such as bitumen and piping, which are based on used petrol as a key input. On the financing and insurance side, council is in a more secure position for the immediate to medium term, as we are heavily hedged in those spaces, in terms of we don't have a lot of borrowing to do in the upcoming immediate period. And in terms of insurance, much of our insurance renewals will be based on treaties that were set before this situation occurred.
Great, thank you for that. So I'm happy to move this. Pauline's happy to second it. All in favour? Against? That's carried. Great, thank you. Paul, do you want to come up and do item 9, the capital program, please?
Good morning. I haven't got a lot to add to what Peter and Mitch have said. So the PMO is still forecasting $500 million. The forecast from the PMs is starting to come back. So we're now within 5% of each other. So we're looking at about 89% in terms of spend to budget, and we're currently sitting about 85% from a delivery point of view. And just to reiterate what Mitchell just said around the risks, there's obviously some evolving risks within the program, particularly in supply chain, and obviously potential escalation going forward. At the moment, we're monitoring and trying to understand what it might mean, but we don't know the answers to that yet.
No, that's really good. I imagine at the next F&P we'll have a bit of a clearer steer on sort of where things are going or have gone. Yep. So, okay, no, really good. Does anyone have questions on the capital program? I mean, I just think it's good that the units are finally coming back in terms of their forecast more to where you guys are. I've always had a view that we shouldn't have two forecasts, but we seem to prove them every year that we don't need two forecasts. Okay, I've got Yanni and then Tim and then Celeste. Yanni?
Yeah, thanks. I was just keen to know, in regards to one project in particular, which is of great concern to me, which is obviously the activated sludge plant, and I'm sure to all of us. Do we have any sense of how much materials have been ordered or are ready to be used versus what's still to come? And have we got any idea about the risk with what's going on in the world?
Okay, you've asked a question, so
yeah.
Gavin, do you want to come up? He can talk us through. Maybe just expand on yesterday, Gavin.
There's still a substantial amount of material to be ordered for the activated sludge. So the contract's still working through with mainly from Europe. The pipe's been ordered. It's on the way to New Zealand, but there's still a lot of components to be ordered.
Is there? I mean, I know given what happened with the stench, we've asked for consideration of what could be done to speed up this project. Is there anything that we're looking to do to kind of try and reduce the risk of what's going on in the world of getting this project complete sooner?
So the contractor is working with their suppliers, and they're aware of the issues, so they're working hard to lock in the contracts. But even when the contract's locked in overseas, there was still at the mercy of what's happening in the world. So it is a risk that they'll try to manage, but in some respects, there's areas that there's little control on as a certain component.
I guess you're probably, and thanks Yanni, and we'll move to Tim, but you're getting the feeling is just, we'd like to be kept up to date in terms of, it's obviously a core critical piece of infrastructure, and it'll come through in the capital reports.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then the only other question from me, and I really appreciated getting the briefing yesterday. I'm just wondering one of the questions that was raised is, what's the trigger point for us doing things differently, given what's going on in the world? And I'm still not kind of clear. Are we making decisions now around some of our capital projects?
So I think, Yanni, we can leave that there, unless I missed, actually, the briefing we had yesterday, we talked about the idea that the team are monitoring at the moment and talking to our contractors to ensure we can keep delivering. So I don't think we need to have that conversation any further now. So we'll move to Tim.
No, it's just with the news yesterday of Qatar calling force majeure on its LNG supply to China, South Korea, Italy, and there's one other country. It would be really good to make sure that we get regular briefings through yourself, Chair, just because it seems to be spreading in those to countries that may not seem to be affected, but you'd never think that Italy was going to be affected.
I think the challenge, from the session we had with Mary's,
absolutely,
we obviously we'll get continued BCP updating, but I think the whole world is grappling with what on earth is happening. So
but also with Te Kaha, I think we made some good decisions around the risk around that to reduce.
I look forward to you saying that on Friday at the Oaks. Okay, I've got Celeste and then Pauline.
Hi, just on page 71. It's just talking about the completion date for Pages Road Bridge. Are we able to get a bit of an update? Because that is about a couple of years behind the original projection. So I'm just concerned. Cool, thank you. Oh, I was just talking about page 71. I'll move that a bit closer. Page 71, and I was just asking about the completion date for Pages Road. So that's been projected at December 2031, which is a wee ways off. So it'd be, oh, it's true. But originally FY29, so I'm just getting.
Okay, let's get the team to come back on that. Pauline, and then we'll move on. Yep.
Sorry, look, mine's a local one too. Can anyone tell me when the Flockton Street reactive renewal will be completed? Probably Gavin, I suppose. If you can't tell me today, maybe just flick something.
Are you okay to send an email?
It's been going on for months and months now.
Cool. Excellent.
Thanks.
Thank you. Okay, so I'm happy to move that. Mel looks like she's happy to second it. All in favour? Are you wanting to debate it? Okay.
Yeah, thank you. I just wanted to acknowledge. Obviously, we've got this report, and obviously a lot of things have changed in the last couple of weeks. So, appreciate the work that staff are doing to look at how we can try and minimise or mitigate some of the risks that may be coming our way. But I just wanted to acknowledge staff for the site visit to Akaroa to look at the Akaroa wastewater project. We do, I think in one of the previous reports we were told we get a lot of numbers and information on these sheets, but actually seeing the projects firsthand is actually a really good way to understand the scale of what we're dealing with. So I just wanted to acknowledge staff for organising that site visit and giving us a greater understanding firsthand of what some of the challenges are. So thank you.
Thank you. Okay, so that's been moved and seconded. All in favour? Against? That's carried. Great. Thank you very much, Paul. We'll see you later on. Kent and Mark, do you want to come up and talk us through the One New Zealand Stadium at Te Kaha, please? And I think you might have some slides or some... Yep. Welcome along. We're nearly there.
It's got it. That better? Drone footage. This is from the 18th of March. You'll see the exterior completed. This is the north ETFE roofing coming inside. The turf's looking really good. The cultural narrative on the seating looking quite spectacular now that all the plastic wrap is off. Looking towards the north, and now another spin round in the bowl area. We're now moving into the concourse, with all the different food outlets we have there, and one of the craft bars, quite an upgrade on the existing facilities there at Apollo Project Stadium. But yeah, it's looking really fantastic, and everything is ready to go there.
So just in summary, in terms of where we're at now and what lies ahead, so we've got code compliance for the building. That was received late February. We've now issued practical completion to the builder, so we've taken over management of the site, and we're currently working through a transitional period until the 20th of April, when we'll formally hand over to Venues Otatahi. So at the moment we're completing a number of client direct works. We're also onboarding a lot of Venues Otatahi staff and undertaking a number of operational preparation activities. And we're also working on remedying defects that were outstanding at practical completion. So yeah, as I mentioned, a transitional stage. It is still quite busy. I think we had about 150, 160 people on site still. So a lot happening, but that will continue to reduce in terms of physical works and increase in terms of operational presence as we head towards the 20th of April. So we've got the ceremonial opening this Friday, which will be a significant marker. So in summary, we're well ahead of our contractual markers. We were due to complete on the 20th of April, but practical completion was about 6 weeks ahead of that. So we're in good shape.
I think you should say that again about practical completion, because that's quite a big milestone for the stadium, and being 6 weeks ahead is huge.
It is, yeah. It's credit to the contractor. They've been really proactive throughout the project. There was mention of their approach to early order of materials, etc., and then as issues were encountered on site, they were really responsive in terms of addressing those and making sure that they stayed ahead of program right the way through. So yeah, we're in a good position, and by the time we get to the 20th of April, the expectation is we will have addressed certainly the majority of those defects outstanding at practical completion and hand over to VO in a tidy condition.
That's fantastic. And just, I guess, for sort of public information, because I know that questions come through as well, is just around the contingencies and things like that. Mark, we're expecting an update in June. Is that correct?
We'll report in June, but we can report we are within the approved budget.
Yep, great. And then we should get a bit of a high-level wash-up in June. Yep, fantastic. Okay, thank you both for that. That's fantastic. We've got Kelly, and the Mayor's happy to move this too, by the way, and Aaron looks like he's happy to second it.
Yeah, just look, this project seems to have been incredibly successful in terms of coming in on time, under budget. I mean, what do you think is the key component for, that's kind of produced this result? Because this seems very rare to me in big builds in this country.
Yeah. Look, I think there's no one thing, but I think probably summarising some of that, it's the preparation that was put in up front, those conversations that we had with the contractor, how they were reflected in the contract, getting the right people in the right positions, and having those tough conversations before we entered the contract, so that everyone went in with really clear expectations about responsibilities and timings, and the thought that went in at that stage set us up for the success that followed. That was, I think, pivotal to getting to where we are now.
Cool. Okay, I've got a few questions, and I should just note too, there is a briefing next week on the traffic. People have been talking about the traffic modelling around the stadium. That's next Tuesday as well. So I've got Tyler, then Phil, then Aaron, then Yanni, and then we'll move on.
Kia ora, guys. You guys may or may not be the right people for this, but there was a vote before my time in council around the temporary seating. Would you be able to, for public knowledge and my knowledge, tell me what that looks like when the big events happen? Can you talk to us about what the temporary seating looks like?
Probably one in terms of what it looks like, or in terms of
How it's
when
set
it will
up,
be deployed.
things like that, yeah.
That's probably a question for VO.
Cool.
Who are up next,
They'll
so
be in
that's,
charge
that's all
of
good.
deploying that.
Great.
Cool, thanks.
Phil?
Yeah, just more comment than anything else. You guys don't undersell yourselves. You two owe a lot of credit to you guys. Because if it wasn't for what you were doing and what you have done, we wouldn't be in the good position we're in. I know we're working with a fantastic contractor and that, but you have kept us up to speed a lot. And I'm so pleased to see our proposed bar being demolished on the corner. But thank you, Andrew. So it's a good job, well done by everyone. I'm looking forward to Friday.
Great. I've got Aaron.
Yeah, so I'll probably ask the most controversial question of the entire project. Are Australians better at delivering large infrastructure projects than New Zealanders?
That's not a question they can answer. Ask Albanese. Okay, Yanni?
Yeah, thank you. There's obviously been a lot of stuff that's gone really well, and there's been a few issues where I think there's been some concern. Is there a process to kind of capture the learnings from this and kind of embed it in what we do going forward? And I'm just mindful of like the comment that I made before. Like, you know, I think when we were at a very risky time, we made some decisions to try and mitigate the risk of cost escalation with what was happening in the world around COVID. And, you know, it seems like there's some really good lessons that we might be, good takeaways that we might be able to learn from and then apply that to maybe some of the other things.
Okay, so you've asked a question.
So, yeah, just wondering what that process will look like going forward.
Yes, we are in the process of doing a closeout report that will record those learnings. I think it'd be true to say most of those learnings are very positive. We've had very few negatives on the project. But yes, we will do a lessons learned closeout report and bring that back to council.
Right. And I asked a question about the car parking requirements, and I think I was told that there were no car parking requirements for events, but then we've obviously bought some land, demolished a building to provide car parking as an event requirement. I'm just trying to understand, you know, a bit like the temporary seats, how that sort of, we got to an outcome where we designed something that didn't have sufficient car parking.
So I actually don't think you need to answer that. Yeah. My understanding, and again, I may have got it wrong because I may have misinterpreted it, was that a building came up for sale that we bought to bowl. So if we didn't put the car parking there, we were paying for car parking in private car parks around the city. So I think let's leave it there. It's been moved and seconded. All in favour? Against? That's carried. Thank you both very much.
Thank you.
Okay, let's go to welcome Venues Otautahi. So come on up to the table. Yeah. Okay, welcome along. We'll hand over to you, Gil, and I'll just turn those mics on. Yep.
Very briefly from me to introduce Caroline and Jamie. We'll talk about really two essential things today. One is the Q2, that's up to 31st December performance report for VO, prior to the stadium clearly. And secondly, we'll talk a bit about the work that's been going on in preparation for the stadium opening and leading into the stadium opening, and a glimpse forward from there. So I'm going to hand over to Caroline, she'll do some of it, and Jamie will chime in on the financials. Thanks.
All right, morning. Nice you're tracking ahead of schedule this morning. All right, so yes, as Gil said, we'll touch on Q2, which always appears when we're here, seems like a lifetime ago, but we'll touch on Q2's performance and then obviously have a little bit of a deep dive on One New Zealand Stadium at Te Kaha. So look, Q2, we've had a really positive Q2 operationally and financially, and I think what's really important to note here is that it demonstrates the value and the success of the current portfolio of venues, even without One New Zealand Stadium in the portfolio. So you'll see there from those numbers, we're well ahead on our guest numbers, our event numbers, and really good to see a nice balance of event type across the portfolio. One thing of note, the last 3 months of 2025, we had 87% occupancy, 90% occupancy at the town hall. So again, just seeing that incredible venue continuing to deliver what it does for the city is outstanding. The first 6 months of the year was 87%. So again, seeing really good consistent activity in the town hall. Our favourite slide of all, celebrate and source local, remains core to everything that we do. So good to see that our numbers reflect that. So we're continuing to procure over 80% of all of our food from Canterbury. We are sourcing 73% of our contractors and suppliers locally, and you'll see there in the next slide as well, that delivers an indirect and direct estimated economic benefit to the city of 27.5 million year to date to the 31 December. That's obviously made up of a big chunk of visitor spending, so that's visitors coming to the city to attend events across the portfolio, and again made up of those local procurement numbers as well. Social impact, so social and environmental impact are two of our key strategic priorities. So really positive there to see. Obviously we've got a large intake of staff coming on board in preparation for the stadium. So we'll be going from about 500 casual staff to just under 1,000 casual staff. So that first number there is how many to 31 December. Obviously that number has shifted in the last couple of months as well, so that's tracking really well. But I guess the two really important measures in all of that is to still see great employment, our employee engagement score at over 80%, and a really low turnover score at 3.15%. The industry standard is 25% in terms of turnover, so we're really pleased to see that our team are really passionate about everything that we're doing and motivated to contribute to the city. Environmental impact, so again, you're seeing positive gains there against our 2023 baseline. We are on track for our 2030 target, and you'll see there that really material gains across those three categories. We are replacing the diesel boilers at Wolfbrook Arena in the summer, obviously fairly topical and timely from an environmental and a financial perspective. Waste continues to be a focus. It contributes 0.6% of our overall carbon footprint, so whilst that is small, it is one of our more visible and more material carbon items, so it is still a focus, and obviously the volume of waste goes up in the next little while, 29 days I think it is. So you'll see in terms of community access, obviously community connection and access to the portfolio of venues is absolutely critical. You'll see there we've already achieved our financial target there at the halfway point of the year, so you can see that that will be far exceeded by the end of the financial year, but really good to see that we can deliver a really strong commercial performance which enables us to do more in terms of that community. And again, our client and guest experience NPS scores are tracking positively.
Financial, I guess as Caroline alluded to, this is nearly 3-4 months in the past now, so I'll talk to these but also give a little bit of a flavour of where we're heading for the rest of the year at the same time. So awesome to see the event numbers that we've had in the first 6 months of the year tracking really well ahead of budget, and the rest of the financial year looks good as well, so we're expecting to slightly increase that positive variance to budget across the course of the rest of the year. Those additional event numbers are driving the additional event income, and with that additional event income we're seeing a higher event contribution. We're really a business of scale, and the more events we can hold across the venues, we have a relatively consistent sort of contribution margin across our portfolio. So event loading is the key factor there. We are well on track on that non-event operating income, and if you look and compare that to prior years, there's a significant increase within that space as we've really commercialised opportunities outside of just core events. So that's a really key additional income stream for us going forward. And then the non-event operating expenses tracking really well under budget through careful management, particularly assets, facilities, space, as we move forward. And all of that leads to an EBITDA tracking really well ahead of budget, and with the next 3 months of performance looking strong as well, and the rest of the year as we move into One New Zealand Stadium, I'm expecting that positive variance to increase further still at that EBITDA line. So all in all, tracking really well, and I'm really, really pleased to be part of the organisation at the moment as we perform this well.
So looking forward, and as we give you a little bit of a deep dive into activities around the stadium, I just wanted to give you a sense of the step change that we are currently looking forward into and preparing for. So obviously we've talked about our staff numbers. Our event numbers go from circa 400 to 550. And to give you a sense of, like, one event could be Robbie Williams, also topical. But one event could be a meeting for 20 people. So in order to give you a sense of that scale, those numbers are not entirely always reflective. So it just gives you an idea of the type of events that we do and the range of those. Our revenue, you can see, materially lifts from 24-25 was 24 million. We're looking at 50 million in 26-27. And all of those reflect on economic impact as well. So those numbers will materially lift, and our focus on continuing to source and celebrate local will continue to embed that economic impact. And the more that we can do with our commercial partners and neighbours around the stadium to really activate and enhance, we will certainly do. Everyone is invested in leveraging this opportunity. And you'll see there, our guests obviously, of course, are going to materially increase. So just to give you confidence, this is what we do day to day. Yes, it's growth, but this is what we do day to day, and we've been preparing a long time for this. And assure you that we don't underestimate the privilege and the opportunity that we have, but we also feel the responsibility. We know that we've got to deliver for our city, we've got to deliver for you, and we want this to not only be a platform for future success and the future change of landscape, but also that we feel much needed pride in our city, that we can see every day get stronger and stronger, but this venue is symbolic of a real closing of a piece of a puzzle, which is recovery. So yeah, don't concern yourselves that we would ever underestimate the privilege or the opportunity or the responsibility. But all in all, that also gets us to the fact that, albeit we already are the largest venue operator in New Zealand, but obviously then there's a bit more of a gap between us and the others. It's not a competition. All right, so just to touch a little bit on preparedness for stadium, which is under 30 days away now in terms of official handover. So our focus really is on integrating the venue, but also focusing on its commercial performance, its operational readiness, and obviously testing. So readiness includes putting the venue under certain pockets of pressure so we're ready when it is full. Obviously it's impossible to fill it up before we open, but we're certainly going to do our utmost to get as many people in that building as we possibly can to really test the systems and the pressure systems of the venue. So a couple of things I wanted to highlight today. We're going to be holding 2 test events. We're holding 3. One of them will be more of a private test event, but 2 test events I want you to talk through today. So the first, oh God, I've skipped this. I'm going to talk to that first. The first is on the 5th of April, which will be a virtual Warriors event. So essentially what we're going to do for this is play the Warriors away game in Sydney at 4 o'clock on Easter Sunday, and we're going to be inviting, what's the number there? 8,059 attendees. So look, the idea is to really fill the south stand so we can test the south stand. So that includes the ticketing platform, ticketing ingress, turnstiles, food and beverage outlets, systems including ribbon boards, replay screens, sound, all of those things, toilets, evacuation. Yeah, so what we'll be doing is we'll be sending out invitations to purchase a ticket. So tickets will be $2. And that really, the only reason we're really doing it with value is to test the platform itself. So we do want people to transact a ticket. And then our second test event is on the 16th of April, which is a Crusaders Open training session. So this gives the turf an opportunity to be tested as well. It gives the Crusaders themselves an opportunity to familiarise themselves with the environment. And similarly so, we'll be testing the east versus the south. So making sure that we spread the south and the east means that all of our retail operators can get an opportunity to test their spaces. And it also gives those guests an opportunity to enjoy that food and beverage. So 9,500 just under for that event. It's a lot of invitations. And I'll go back to that slide that I missed. So look, obviously I won't touch on the October to December because that is done, but we've obviously had plenty of exciting announcements coming out. And awesome to see those things selling out. So the All Blacks sold out in record time. So did the Warriors. So a 4-day sellout with an event that's not till the end of June is pretty impressive. Robbie Williams has obviously been announced. Crusaders Friday night game of Super Round has also sold out. So everything, you're seeing the really high demand, which isn't surprising, but it is really good to see it coming to fruition. We've got our ceremonial opening, as Kent alluded to, on Friday, and that's the opportunity to bless the venue. We wouldn't want to do anything in that venue until that time, and we're really excited to see that wonderful milestone on Friday. And I think that is about that. So look, very happy to take your questions.
Do you want to preempt? Firstly, thank you. That's a great presentation. We're looking forward to it. Do you want to just preempt the question on the temporary seating?
Yes. So okay, I'll give you a bit of a summary on temporary seating. So the reason, well, firstly, let's talk about the northern pad, which we're calling the Lancaster, as a nod, obviously, to our former. And that pad is there to, one is to house staging for concerts, to make sure that we keep that staging off the turf. Turf health is obviously one of the major components of the stadium. What it also does is it gives us flexibility to do other types of events, so the likes of lifestyle events such as expos, business events like banquets, cocktail parties, etc. And then it also allows us to sell premium hospitality or bump in the temporary seats. So our venue hires are the chooser of that option. They'll either choose to, if it's a sporting event, they will either choose to sell premium hospitality, which is a high value proposition, or they'll choose to put the temporary seats in. The temporary seats are just a click under 5,000, so 4,947. And look, they're not inexpensive to put in, so it is a commercial decision for a venue hire to put them in. So sometimes capacity isn't everything. You're also looking at yield as well as volume. So it is actually, I know that there has been some attention around whether it's a positive or a negative having the temporary seats, but that flexibility is really, really critical for the venue and a really positive thing.
And I guess just thinking back to the time, whenever it was, a few years ago, I mean, the whole temporary seating thing, that had a bearing on the number of permanent seats as well, didn't it? So we've got the 25 permanent, but if we'd had it a different way, it would have necessarily been slightly different as well.
Yeah, look, and I think it's always a point in time. Not having that flexibility and having 30,000 seats would be the lesser of the two options. It is better to have the flexibility and a great size stadium at 25,000 seats, and that remains the case. Yep. I know things are selling out, and we are in a great position at the moment, but we have to appreciate that it is a really good size stadium.
Okay, cool. Now I've got Andre, Phil, Kelly, Aaron, Yanni.
Thank you. I've got to say, having a concourse with fun activities on it and things to do provides a much better game day experience as well. Is also worth noting. So you got a Warriors watch party. It's invitation only. Who are you inviting?
Well, yes, it's not. I've been very busy. Warriors Watch Party. So council staff will be invited. We've set aside tickets for council staff. One New Zealand and the Warriors obviously will invite their databases. But we we really encourage you. Like, we'll distribute the links to invite. Obviously we wanted to make sure that we prioritised those that we needed to up front, but then obviously getting 1,000.
I was just talking to Mary. We were whispering at each other, saying, should we chuck something up on our newsline, because it's a really good thing and very accessible.
It's coming this morning, so.
Oh, great.
Yeah.
Cool. So I might have jumped the gun yesterday. Thank you.
No, you're good. Yep.
Yeah, you bought 20 tickets, didn't you?
I bought 12. Yeah.
Okay, Phil.
Thank you. But on top of that, Caroline, there are going to be, I think it's more in May, total open days for people to, I know it's in there, but I'm just putting it out there.
Yes, definitely. Yep, community open day on that first weekend post Super Round. And there'll be some awesome activities. It's a joint community day with council and Venues Autotahi, so we're working really closely with the council events team on activations and
that'll be, that'll be just people turn up more or less for free.
Absolutely. And if the demand is high, we can always do more.
Okay. The other question is, with the environmental impact stuff, and it says your electricity usage has gone down by 16%. If you're so busy, you must be. What have we changed to be? If we've got more people using these facilities, how have we managed to get the electricity usage down? Like if the doors are open more often. And to add on to that, I assume that the Wolfbrook heating will be electric going forward.
Yeah.
So
we will, but that will also change, because our main production facility at the moment is Wolfbrook, and that will become the stadium. So, and what we've done is energy efficient lighting. We've made a whole bunch of changes to the venue itself in terms of infrastructure that actually mean that we have a more efficient system. So that's why you're seeing electricity usage come down versus.
Thank you. And lastly, I understand at the stadium, Moa Beer are the ones. Are they for the whole group or just the stadium?
Whole group.
The whole group. Okay, thank you.
Cool. Kelly.
Yeah, my question was also about the open day, Caroline. So obviously that's May the 2nd, a week after the stadium opens. How's that going to work in terms of, are people just going to be able to rock up, make their own way there? And will there be sort of capacity issues? I mean, you've said that there'd be a second day if necessary. How's that kind of going to work?
Yeah, look, we're still working through the logistics, but we wanted the underlying principle to be open and not constrained. So we'll design a tour, essentially, that'll guide guests around the venue, around the concourse probably, which will keep that flow. We will have a capacity, so we'll be keeping an eye on, obviously, levels, and just to keep the flow going. But we don't imagine having any issues with that. We didn't really want to phase it or ticket it. So, as I say, we're just working through the final logistics.
So it'll be a general invite to the people of Canterbury to come in and have a look at their stadium.
Absolutely.
That's good. Just have a follow-up question for Jamie, actually. Thanks. You're obviously relatively new as CFO for VO, and you've obviously come from other businesses. Is there anything unique about the VO business that you can kind of share with us from a sort of a new perspective that we haven't seen in terms of its financial heart and how well it's operating?
I mean, I came from Sinlay in my previous role, so, which was in the
if it gives you any, to give you context, we had our finance report before where we just reported a $50 million surplus. I think they were 68 the other way, weren't they? Yeah.
So no, I think what pleases me is how financially responsible the organisation is. So all of the decisions are made with the ratepayer in mind. We're really single-mindedly focused on reducing that need for ratepayer council support, and sort of that sits behind all the decisions we make in terms of operational side of things. The team, in particular the commercial side of the team, is really focused on broadening revenue streams as well. So not just sitting on their laurels and saying, more events is the only answer. So finding other things we can commercialise within the group.
No, that
and
sounds
then,
good. That's
then
cool.
utilising the power of the group and finding deals we can make. So it's kind of everywhere. I think is in the
Excellent.
of the place.
Okay, thank you, Aaron, and then Yanni, and then we'll wrap it up.
Yeah, so just around the ABs, so that 4-hour sellout, is that the fastest ever for the ABs, or have they got a better record than that we know of?
Oh, I don't know. I couldn't answer that with confidence.
Right, okay, that would be an interesting one. And then the other is around expanding the opportunity when the ABs are here. Is that up to ABs management, or can you put a proposal to them along the lines of like because captain's runs are normally closed, normally, but to do a one-off public captain's run, because it's our stadium, like Thursday night or something, that would be a ticketed event.
Okay, you've asked your question.
Would that be you guys or ABS management?
So we there's a host city agreement, which is kind of builds out the peripheral of what happens around an event like that, which is broader sort of city activation. So they're all things that we can talk to them about. I think opening captain's runs is probably not something they would be open to, but broader engagement with the city is definitely important. So that's why we have those host city agreements and why we invest in bringing them here. So yeah, definitely.
Yeah, getting a double up in the same week would be, I mean, there's obviously demand for it to see them up close. It's not the game, but
yeah,
cool.
definitely.
Great, thanks, Aaron. Yanni?
Yeah, thank you. Just two questions. The first, just to pick up on the additional, the 50 million and the benefit. We were told at the time that the assessment of the operational impact of the increased seating suggested that it could reduce the required level of operating subsidy and bid funding. Has that been something that we've seen?
Well,
Yes.
we've gone from we don't pay you.
Yeah, there's no operational funding required for our organisation as a whole anymore, so that's certainly the case. In terms of bid, we've certainly we're attracting the content that we need to and not bidding more than we should. So
Right, but have we reduced what we would have done if we'd had just 25,000 seats?
I don't.
Okay.
It's not a question.
So just
to give you an example.
so in terms of like the temporary
Yanni, stop. Remember we had that talk. You said you're going to be respectful, so let Carolyn finish.
If we had a stadium that had 25,000 total, so say 20,000 permanent and 5,000 temporary, we wouldn't get a tier 1 All Black game here. That would be a more regional side stadium.
Right, and is there
anything? No, Yanni, stop. Celeste has a question.
Yes.
Just a quick question. How much bid funding do we? How much bid funding do you receive a year from council?
None.
Oh,
no, we're self-funding it. Yeah.
Okay, so I'm happy to move this. Andre's happy to second it. All in favour? Against? That's carried.
No
great.
debate.
Thank you. Thanks very much for coming in. It's great.
Thank you.
Okay, so we'll get Luke up next for item 12, the small business participation and procurement. So hang on, guys. Let's get back into it. We're good to go. So Luke's here to present item number 12. Tyler's indicated he's happy to move it, and the mayor will second it. Luke, do you want to just add anything at the beginning, and we can just go straight to questions?
I reckon just go straight to questions. Yep.
Does anyone have any questions? Everyone's quite happy. Aaron does.
Yeah, so with this work being done, have we seen an increase in smaller businesses participating? Because that's the ultimate goal here. So there's no outcomes in this report of where we've got to.
No. It's not something that we can measure. We don't have the ability in our financial system to capture the size of a business. So there's no real baseline for us to work from. So there was no evidence in the beginning that we weren't engaging them, and there's no evidence of any increase now. But what we do know is that we've taken measures to make it, to enable small business to interact with our procurement processes.
So if we don't know, why even bother doing this work?
Because through looking through all of our different processes and different documents, we could recognise that there was opportunities there to scale it against the risk of the contract that we're tendering. So we know we've made it easier, but we just can't say about the extent to which that's made any difference to small businesses engaging.
Well, we
with
don't
us.
know if we have if no one's actually getting any work.
How do you mean?
Well, if we don't measure if a small or medium business is, yeah, okay.
Thank you. Through you, the Chair. Yeah, it's a really good, interesting question, because Luke and I did discuss this, and we went and asked questions. Was it MB?
Yeah.
I think about what you do in order to measure your participation rates of this sort of activity. And so, and we look at our supplier list, and what we know is that it is occurring, but we first of all have to find a measurement basis that's consistent and gives us a baseline, and then look at it. But there doesn't appear to be anybody else doing it, so we know that. But what it has done is enable us first of all to see what can we do that actually reduces some of the burden without, in some areas, without compromising the value for money and so on, and gives an opportunity. But and we can do that, but the measurement is something that we're grappling with, because actually doesn't appear anybody's doing it, and we haven't got a baseline. But it is something we said to Luke we will need to look at. Is there something we can do that measures how effective it is? But we know, looking at our list, that there is participation of some of these local firms, which tend to be smaller.
Yeah, but they're normally working under a larger contractor who's clipping the ticket, so the ratepayer still doesn't win, and neither does the small business person. And when you go through the report, the number of, it's like we've got to stick to this and we've got to stick to that because we need to protect the ratepayer and so on and so forth, which is fine, but we don't, because on our really major contracts, except the stadium, they nearly all blow out. So the ratepayer never wins, except the stadium.
That's through you, Chair. Yeah, there is an element of some of them are work as subcontractors to the head contractor, but there are also areas where some of the smaller contractors do get work directly, or for the procurement of goods. So what the team have done is first of all set up a framework that enables that more direct appointment, for them to be appointed to roles as the primary contractor, and for us to procure goods, and we can see that and did some work on it. But in terms of, back to your original question, we've got to have a mechanism that enables us to measure it, and it's not that. At the moment, our systems and processes don't enable us to grab that information and then report it, and we first of all have to establish a baseline. So we've asked around, and it doesn't appear as if anybody else is doing it, so there's not a template that we can wheel out.
Yeah, true. Well, no, that may be the case. I don't know, because I haven't asked around. But our previous report we just had from VO clearly states how much goods and services are procured locally, and so that's a pretty.
But
good
that's local,
template
though.
there
That was local, not small business. So this report was about small business.
Yeah.
They're talking about local.
Yeah.
And they're obviously,
measuring it.
They're measuring it because they're procuring everything local because they did their events. But we do lots of other different works and services.
I think what we might do is, so this is for noting, but what we might do is just we'll have another workshop on it as a group, because I think, there are other things, like if you look at what Auckland, they have and I'm not saying we'd set up a committee or anything, they have like the Value for Money committee that they run out of there, which is, and looking at it, you could potentially have a report that comes to this one. So I think some good questions.
Yep.
Let's just pick it up as another action. To have another session as a group. Yeah.
Okay,
because I think the intent is we want to use our local small businesses.
Yeah. Well, we do, but I asked the question 3 years ago around it to try and get us along this line, and to go out to the contractors themselves and get them to tell us what are the barriers. We haven't done that. We go internally and go, we have all these systems in place, and so yes, they can get through. But we don't go out to the contractors and say, how can you deliver jobs cheaper for us? Because contractors will often tell me, all different fields, that the council put these barriers up or that, or it's really hard to do this, or I think a painting contract that I saw recently was like 600 pages or some nonsense that they had to fill out. They had to employ someone to do this massive process, which just makes no sense. It's literally putting paint on a wall.
Okay, so we'll just...
Sorry, what was the question?
The question is, how do we go out to the contractors themselves and get them to tell us, not that we would do it, but because then we can look at, and I don't know if you've met contractors in a pub before, but they'll tell you all the problems councils and government departments have and why they're so hard to work with.
Okay, let's not.
How do we
let's
undo
not.
that?
We've been going well. We'll have another workshop on it as a group, and I've got Tim, and then we're going to move on.
I think what would be quite good is to understand the process between big and small and the actual process to get a contract with council. So, you know, I'd like to see the truth, because you run into contracts or whatever, like 600 pages, you know, like if it's 600 pages, we wouldn't have anything done, you know, like everyone would tell us to go, ugh. Let's not. So I want to see the truth if we can, but on the other side of that, because I know that, you know, like if you want a small job done sometimes, like, and bitumen is a really good example, bigger contractors aren't interested in it, they just want to know. So I'm presuming they're only doing it for us because they've got a bigger contract. So there may be an opportunity in a cheaper way with a smaller contractor. So it would be good to see some figures and some returns on what we're getting from smaller, locally owned businesses.
Yep.
Cheers.
Okay, cool. I think really good points, and I actually like that. I mean, that idea of the sort of working through the process or understanding the process. So let's have a chat afterwards, and we can come up with something. Okay, so that's been moved and seconded. All in favour? Against? That's carried. Great. Thank you. Thanks, Luke, for that.
Good.
Now, what I want to do, Bruce, before you jump up, Linda, can we just jump to item 15? Because that should just be your one, the half year for LGFA to Kaha. I don't anticipate the CCHL one, the bus one will take long, but I'd much rather get this one out of the way, which I'm happy to move, and Mel's happy to second. Do you want to just?
I was going to take the paper as read. It's the half-year reports for the 4 smallish CCOs.
Yep. Are there any questions on these, Tyler?
Just needed to acknowledge a conflict with Rick and Bush Trust.
Yep.
So I'll be stepping away from that.
Good as gold. Thanks for doing that. Great. So that's been moved in second. Yanni has
Sorry, just a question, just to check in for 10. Te Kaha project delivery is expected to be wound up by 30th of June.
That's correct. Yeah,
track?
as far as we know, yeah.
Okay. And will that be a decision of council, or will that be, like, who makes that call?
We would need approval of council, the shareholder, which is council, to do that, but it's because the activity with the build coming to an end is no reason for the coming to an end.
Okay, great.
Yeah. Great. We're all good. So that's been moved and seconded. All in favour? Against? That's carried. Great. Thank you, Linda. Bruce, come on up so this is item 13, the red bus site transfer from CCHL to council, which the mayor's happy to move. Is someone happy to second it? David's happy to second it. It's pretty straightforward. Any questions? Phil has a question. Cool.
Yeah, thanks, Bruce. This is good. It's ending up in the right place. Just roughly, we will own it. We will lease it to ECAN, who will then lease it to Ritchie's and the others. Will they all be sub-leases, or will we deal direct with Ritchie's?
We will be leasing it. It is still PX, but yes, it will be to ECAN.
Okay. Yeah, thank you, mate.
Yep. Cool. So that's been moved and seconded. All in favour? Against? That's carried.
No.
Great. No.
Can I have that recorded?
Yep.
I still think it's the wrong decision.
Cool. So just note that Tim's against. Great. That's carried. Thank you, Bruce. Now we're running quite ahead of time. What we might do is break now for morning tea for 15 minutes, and at 10 to 11 we'll start with the resident survey. So everyone break 15 minutes and come back. Everybody,
Thanks very much.
we're good. We good to go.
Hello.
Welcome to the table, Kath, and it's good you're here to talk about the annual residence survey, and Peter's here as well. So we'll just hand over to you. We'll do questions at the end. I think it'd be better if you go through the presentation and then we'll just deal with it after that. Okay. Great, thank you.
Look, I'll do a very brief intro to this. There is a little bit of context, and then Kath will actually step you through the body of the survey. Look, I know you can read, so I'm not going to go through the detail of the overview there, but the context, look, there are some factors around this. There are always factors we control and factors we don't. We've, as an organisation, put a lot of focus on improving service delivery, listening to feedback, and investing in key infrastructure. That's to the tune of about $500 million a year. There are some things that are factors in here that we don't control. Some of them are really coming to the fore. I mean, they are global at the moment. Geopolitical circumstance, and the international economy, those are extremely volatile, as you're well aware. Some of those factors have been volatile for a while. They may influence the survey, but we don't actually control them. Equally, government cost cutting has been a significant ongoing issue for over a year now. Supply chain issues, I suspect we probably haven't seen the worst of that yet. So that's the context of what we do and don't control. Just a little quick methodology here. This is based on nearly 10,000 data points, responses, I should say. The GSS has a representative sample of 806 from across the city. Point of contact where we actually say to people who just received the service, look, have you got a moment? We'd like to find out what your experience was, is over 8,000 respondents. And we do apply a booster to the survey to try to get really hard to get and diverse groups. That is by definition a difficult thing to do, but we do our best with the resources we have. So given that sort of setup for the survey, I'll hand over to Kath Jameson now to step you through the results.
Okay, so we've got another year of solid improvements, which is great to see, with overall satisfaction up to 60%, so that's up another 7% on 53% last year. More services met their targets this year than at any other time since the earthquakes. And that's of services that are measured via the resident survey program. We've got more services that improved their satisfaction ratings by 4% or more. Lowest equal number in 10 years with satisfaction scores that were down on the previous year. Our core areas of concern, we're seeing further satisfaction improvements. So we've got the usual ones like road condition, water supply quality, governance and decision making, and some of those measures of reputation and trust. So all seeing further satisfaction improvements this year. And yet challenges do still persist, and the reasons for dissatisfaction remain unchanged. So we've got the roading issues, disapproval of council spending, some of those reputation and trust measures. While they're improved, they still need some more work. So overall satisfaction, solid improvement again this year, as I said, up another 60%. Dissatisfaction down again another 4% to 14%. And that's measured via our general service satisfaction survey. So that's a representative sample for the city. So we ask people each year why they rated or gave the rating for their overall satisfaction of the organisation the way they did. So those who said they were satisfied felt the council was doing a good job, and that's up to 14% from 10% last year. And happiness with recreation facilities, improved parks and amenities, which is up from 7% to 11% this year. And I think that's reflecting that better mood in the city about things being positive. So people are indicating that they are happy with the council's input into that. Reasons for dissatisfaction, it's still the unhappiness with roads and road maintenance. So that hasn't changed that much in terms of the proportion of all comments. And dissatisfaction with council spending, that is down a bit on last year to 9%, so that's positive to see as well. So that one's probably a little bit hard to read from where you are, but that's just reflecting, as I said, that more services are meeting their targets. So of the resident survey measures that get measured via that survey program, 92% of them met their targets this year, which is the highest proportion since the earthquakes. And that's up from 84% last year. Only 3 didn't meet their targets. That's wastewater reliability, walking friendly city, and cemeteries presentation. Higher satisfaction services. A third of services are higher satisfaction services, so they're ones scoring over 85% plus satisfaction. And if we look there, there's a reasonable degree of consistency across the years in terms of which are our highest, second highest and third highest services. So parks, education programs, again, people very, very happy with delivery there. Walk-in customer services, Botanic Gardens in Mona Vale and Hagley Park. And then this year, cemeteries administration services. Sorry, it's a bit hard to read there. So areas that the council delivers best, the 2 best services have been in that top 3 grouping since 2019, so waste management. People see our 3-bin system as being reliable and efficient, and feel that it keeps the city looking tidy and clean. Parks and reserves, people love those, well-maintained parks, great spaces that again help the city to keep it looking beautiful. So they love those green spaces. So service satisfaction trends since last year, those that have improved 1% or more, 59% of the services measured improved 1% or more. 14% stayed the same and 27% worsened by 1% or more. I won't read out those, they are in your reports, but again, there's a degree of consistency in terms of some of those improvements around services that people do a lot of interaction with our staff in particular, so that face-to-face interaction is something that people really appreciate, but also really good to see in their road condition improve 4% or more. People are recognising that we're making gains in terms of roading. Still not that happy with all the roadworks, but do recognise the necessity of that, appreciate the communication that we're providing around it, and see that that overall program is, over time, improving our roads. So lower satisfaction services, so they're the ones that score 50% or lower satisfaction, so it's the exact same services as last year. Opportunities to have a say, confidence in, influence on and understanding of decision making, road and footpath condition, and some of that range of reputation and trust measures. And the areas needing improvement, roading, so the ongoing patch repairs, we asked people why they're dissatisfied with roading condition, and the main reason was that ongoing patch repairs and recurring potholes still there. Roadworks disruption, and you're getting that tension between we want roads done but we want it faster, but we also don't want the spending to be high, and that tension I think is going to remain, given that we know that to fix roads and to fix them faster is very costly and disruptive. Council decision making and financial management, want more financial control, reducing wasteful spending to keep rates down, but again that challenge around not necessarily telling us exactly what they do want cut, but also where they do, you get differences of opinion. Some say they don't want this, others say they absolutely must keep that. So that tension is there and remains. Now this slide is actually showing a combination of the general service satisfaction and point of contact surveys, because we do ask some additional questions in our on-site surveys about road condition and the transport network. So that score of 37% satisfaction with the roads isn't exactly the same as the one in the general service satisfaction survey, but it's a broader picture of road condition satisfaction. And as you can see there in those two graphs, but particularly the one on the left, we've got 79% of people surveyed saying that they're satisfied with the ease of travel on our roads and agree that is that the roads and our transport network is easy to use. So there's quite a disconnect there between that and satisfaction with the roads, for example, and also with the safety of the transport network. Both of those do reduce in satisfaction by age. As you get to some of those older age groups, and it's the same with footpath condition, you know, some of those challenges around navigating our roading and transport network becomes more of a challenge for people. And then we've got reputation and trust, seen some of the largest improvements this year. Value for ratepayer money, we've got an 11% improvement there. Now, just again to point out, this isn't just the general service satisfaction results, this is a combination of that general service satisfaction and the booster that we did to get some more representation from some of our harder to reach groups, some of the younger age groups and certain ethnic groups that haven't been always well reflected in some of our other surveying. So there's slight differences there, but the general pattern is the same. We're seeing improvements there. So good value for ratepayer money has improved 11%. Leadership of the mayor and councillors, great to see, another 10% improvement there. So that's up further on last year, which was also an improvement, and council having a good reputation. So I mean, what you can see there is they're all trending in the right direction. Yep, some of them are lower than we would want, but it's going in the right direction, and that's really good to see. But we recognise we've still got work to do there. And that's it in terms of just a quick overview for you.
Excellent, Kathy. Thank you for that. It's a really good summary and good overview of how things are progressing, and I guess it's really good to look at the good stuff, and that overall view is increasing. Yeah. And I'm sure there'll be some questions as well around, you know, some of those other changes we can bring in. I guess, and I think I ask this every year, is just around what you know, the learnings that we pick up in this. How do we apply them to the LTP?
Do you want to talk a bit further about that?
Yes, in the sense that, firstly, we have often in the recent years done some work with ELT on these results, how they will be carried forward. So that's one step.
Yep.
The other step is that these results are embedded in activity plans in the LTP. So when they come to you for your steer on settings, those results and the trend of them over time will be there for each activity. So where you see an upward trend or a downward trend, that's going to be something you can work with in terms of how you want to set and calibrate the activity and its budget.
Yep.
So it's hardwired into the process.
Okay. I guess, you know, if we're trying to break it down and go, you know, I always like to do the things we can to move the dial the furthest. Roading has come up since every year since I've been here in 2019 around, you know, obviously the satisfaction or dissatisfaction with what we're doing. And I know we've made progress with it. You know, is there a specific piece of work we need to do on roading that we need to consider for the LTP to actually move the dial? Because, you know, what's that sort of definition of insanity? It's like if we keep getting this every year.
We are doing an additional survey once the annual plan is closed that is looking further into, it's not specifically just about roading, but around travel issues and transport issues in the city so that we can get some more information. I mean, roading has actually been one of the primary issues even before the earthquakes. I mean, I suppose it's one of those ones that people are particularly aware of because they're using the roads every day. So if they're not satisfied, it's one that is very front of mind for people.
I can't remember who it was, but I was speaking to someone the other day about the very first set of council minutes for this council ever in the Victorian era. And after they sorted out who was going to be what on the committee, the very first item was the state of the roads.
Yeah. I'd like to think we've made some progress since then, but...
So, look, we can do the planning and intelligence around it, but I mean, it's Lynette's team and Stephen's team who will be doing the options and technical and budgetary detail.
Yeah.
Okay.
Brent's going to...
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. And I think, Council, just to keep in mind that one of the things mentioned on the slide was around disruption to roading, and the head of Three Waters will thank me later. But a lot of the disruption on the transport network is, we're out there fixing the pipes first, and Council have asked us to do that in terms of, reducing leakage and that sort of stuff. So it's a bit of a double-edged sword. We've got to get in there and do that and then fix the road. So it's a combined thing. The residents see it as road disruption, but there's a number of reasons for that. So that's what we're working on. That's why we've got better coordination happening, and that's, you'll see that improving over time.
Yeah, I don't know what other people think. I just would like something back on the roading, because it does stand out. I mean, don't get me wrong, we've had a really good... The results are great. They are bloody good. And it's just going, how do we even make them better if there's something we can do as council? So I've got... Yeah, well, that's true. Yeah.
Hi there.
Okay, so I've got a list of questions.
Sorry.
Oh, Stephen's there. Cool.
Sorry, Mr. Chair. We will be looking at options through the long-term planning process, and we'll be bringing them options to you to enable you to make decisions on how and where we spend money, and then the levels of impact. Because there's two parts of what we do in the road space. One is improvements and renewing assets, and one is reactive maintenance. The reactive maintenance stuff is generally the pothole repairs and the immediate fixes, but there's a big OPEX associated. That's all OPEX. And then the capital repairs, which is renewing the assets, that's largely the bigger pots of expenditure. But by the same token, the more you do in CapEx, the more you get on top of renewing your assets. There is a relationship between that and then reducing your overall OPEX as well. So we will be bringing options to you through the long-term planning process to weigh up those options. Do we spend more here to reduce the OPEX over here? But you're probably going to need to spend a heap more in one space to have any real impact on the operational space.
I guess.
And then in an area of rates caps as well, it's that OPEX space that has the biggest impact from potential rate caps.
Yeah. I guess because and we've talked about it, Tyler and I have talked about it a lot, is around what are the easy wins we can do as a council to lift satisfaction. And I know we had a presentation, I'm going a wee bit off track and then I'll pass it on, but we had a presentation at our community board maybe 2 weeks ago around some of the really easy fixes, and we've tried to get that information. And so I just think there's a way where we could actually go, is there a heap of small things across the city that we can address as a council and deal with in the next 12 months to fix this, while we also have that strategic longer term discussion around what's going to move the dial on this stuff. So yeah, I'm quite keen to pick that up offline after this with probably you, Brent, and
So
cool.
Through the chair, we'll come back to you on that.
Yeah, excellent. I'll flick you through what I've got.
Perfect. Thank you.
Yeah, great. Thank you. Really good. So I've got I've probably got a heap of questions. I've got Tyrone, Mel, Tim, Tyler, Pauline, Yanni, and Mark, and Aaron, and Kelly.
Thank you. I mean, like obviously the trends, like all the things seem to be moving in the right direction, which is great, and the vibe is good. Banks Peninsula massively overrepresented again in these really good numbers, but we won't read too much into that. But just on On the back of, you've obviously never tried. So just on the back of Sam's.
Now, we had a conversation yesterday
Yes, we
about
did.
holding each other to account. So,
sorry,
Tyrone, just get on with your actual question.
The question is, it's hot on the back of Sam's question. Like, actually, Sam really articulated it very, very well what I wanted to say. But like,
it's much better. I like that.
Obviously, we have,
Give me a bucket.
like we know by ward. We can probably, we can break down by ward and age and gender and all of these things. Like, we know that, we might know that the unhappy people about roading are, such and such an age and they live such as, we can do that. So I'm just wondering if there's any value in doing a deep sort of a qualitative piece of work. And I don't know if this is where you were heading, Sam, but just to basically get into that understanding of like, what are the things that actually really just, make people unhappy about roading. So I can just think in my own ward where, some really engaged people, but they might just be really unhappy about the ratio of chip seal to tar on a re-roading thing, and it just drives them up the wall so much that they have to go, and it doesn't mean that we're doing a bad job on roading. It's just some of the quality control might be a bit skew with. So it's just like being able to do that sort of work.
Yeah, I suppose one of the challenges with roading too is that people will often be very specific about their particular street or a street that they travel on, and so it's a very, very deep and specific issue that they might have with a pothole that's on their street that got patched and then it rains and it's back again. And so I suppose in terms of a deep dive, it's do you try and keep them more broadly focused on broader issues around roading, or are we actually diving right into the very specifics about their road? Because if it's about fixing their road, there are probably going to be a zillion other people who are saying, I'm not happy about my road.
Yeah.
But
I guess
hear
it's
what
just
you're
more about
saying.
that qualitative, we've got all the quant stuff, and really if we want to shift that dial, I feel like we have to do that qual work.
Yeah.
I think that's,
There are extensive comments.
Yeah. I think
with
we're
this.
what I was just talking to Mary sort of saying, because I think we're all kind of going, what's the thing that we can do? And so maybe what we'll do is we'll get that research and kind of have a session as a group and go, what are the things we want? Because the whole point is, personally, I think as we work through the annual plan, there'll be some stuff we can do for our community boards that we can just tick off, and get done over the next 12 months. But I think there's that longer piece around, have we got the framework set up for transport for the next 10 years to actually kind of move that dial? So I think we're all on the same page. Yeah, cool. Thank you. Mel, and then Tim.
Thank you for this. Just from your presentation, it's interesting how some comments that have seen, or things that have come out kind of conflict with each other, which you've already talked about. Like, people were really happy with improved satisfaction with community parks, etc., but they're not happy with the way cemeteries are being maintained or presented, yet they're done by the same teams. And I personally think the cemeteries look a lot better than they used to. So I'm confused about some of those. And there's another one about footpath condition has improved with meeting level service, although it's quite a low percent. Yet people are saying we're not a walking friendly city. So it's obviously not just footpaths, other things. But have we looked? Yeah.
And that is the challenge with the results, that there's a tension across so many of the different areas where some people are really satisfied with something and others are very dissatisfied. For example, with cycle lanes, there are those who love them and want lots more, and there are those who say that's wasteful spending, get rid of them, they're a problem. The community parks surveys, we pick a random selection of parks each year, community parks, and survey people who live around those parks. And then we also, for the cemeteries presentation one, we've got our key cemeteries and we pick a random additional one each year, and so we've got people out in those cemeteries surveying. So you've got different samples surveying them. So with cemeteries this year, it was mainly around the maintenance issue, particularly around people feeling that the grass wasn't mown enough. And some talk around extra seating and tap provision and things like that. So that maintenance issue was a big one. But then, you know, you've got the parks and reserves being the area that people feel the city delivers best, and it's been consistently that. And they say that helps keep the city looking beautiful and green, and they're very happy with them. So sometimes we're getting that real tension between saying, yeah, we think it's the best service, and by a fair proportion saying that, and yet then when they delve into their little local park, they've got bugbears around trees or shrubs that they don't feel have been pruned back enough, or that the grass is longer than they would like. So yeah, I suppose all I can say is that it's an ongoing tension, and I think it's probably the tension you're facing all the time in terms of making decisions, that some will be satisfied with some things, others with different things.
Thank you. I mean, can't forget on page 11 where it's road conditions is one of the improvements, up 4%, which is great. And it is, as the chair's pointed out, you know, that's the first ever council paper, way back in the day, the first item after everyone's sorted out their, you know, like their little areas, was road condition, which is insane, you know, back to traction engines, etc. But I guess, do we have any feedback? Because when I go out and talk to people, the one thing that I get kicked in the teeth with is speed bumps. Now, I'm an advocate for speed bumps, but there are examples in the city where I cannot argue them. I can't justify them. And to your street, for instance, and up the hill on Dyes Path. But is there an area that we specifically ask for that? Because if we're going to change the dial, maybe that's one of the issues. Because every time I talk about it, the residents bring up this or that or whatever, and I try to justify, but there are places I find I can't. So, your thoughts?
We don't ask a specific question about the speed bumps, but I mean, we are getting comments actually dotted through the resident survey talking about them, where people are unhappy with them. We don't get a lot of people saying they're brilliant, but
but sadly they are where they need it.
That inconvenience that people are grumbling about them.
Yes.
Through the chair, and just to help answer that, Councillor Scondritt, a paper is due to be coming to council very soon to gain endorsement on the types of road where we would accept speed bumps and where we wouldn't accept speed bumps. Okay. And that's to try and standardise where we put them, so we can, when we do roll them out, they're rolled out in a consistent manner.
Great, thank you.
So that'll be coming very soon.
That'd be great.
Thank you.
Second question is, after the earthquake, and Kilmore Street's a really good example, we had totally redone Kilmore Street. It's lovely, brand new, looked fantastic. Then a company came along and dug it up, dug a trench. Now, they knew that the programs have worked, but I was told that they do that after it's because it's more cost effective because the earth has been dug up already. So do we have, is that one of the issues when people talk about roadworks, etc.? Do we have say in, if it's not emergency work, if for instance we're doing up a road, can we say to those companies that need to put services in, you have to do it now? Is that a possibility or not? Because we're always the ones that are, or our staff I should say, are the ones. So.
Through the chair, when it comes to utilities, we have very little say. We do try and coordinate the best we can, but we don't have much say over that. In addition to what Brent was saying earlier, we are doing much more or much better coordination between transport and Three Waters to make sure that we are minimising overall disruption. Because we know lots of our Three Waters assets might need renewal, and when they do need renewing, we'll try and come in quite quickly, and if we can, combine our works with theirs, so it's a one-stop shop.
Great.
But for external people, there's very little control we have.
Right, thank you very much.
Okay, hey Peter. Hey, I've got a question particularly around the data that we could possibly procure as ward councillors. I think it'd be really informative for us to see what's going on in our local areas. Would that be possible by chance?
Some of it we can provide down to a ward level. The challenge is the resident survey isn't really designed with a big enough sample to be able to go into a lot of detail at a ward level, because we would need pretty big samples. And I know we talk about overall we've got the nearly 10,000 respondents and responses, which is really good.
17,
but you start getting down to those individual levels, and then to provide you with more detail under that. Those point of contact surveys, for example, which make up over 8,000 of those, they don't have the level of specificity
So the
that
short
would
answer
actually
is
give you what you would want.
No, cool.
Gotcha.
That's been asked and answered. So
Thank you.
great. Pauline.
Well, I was wondering a similar thing. With the roading, do we have a geographical area that maybe attracts more negative comments than others? And I think without that detail, it's pretty hard for us to address the rectification of that issue. And then also following up from Councillor Scandrett, what he's saying is that if you ask one question, a resident who might not like a speed hump, for example, just installed at their street, they'll give a negative on the whole roading thing just because of that, when in actual fact they may well be happy with the rest of the roading network in Christchurch. And the other thing that I wonder is if people were asked to put a citywide lens on their answer, and then also perhaps a personal one, so that you kind of point out to them that there's two ways to look at this whole thing. And the other thing was just about the cemeteries as well. So council and parks don't tend the graves themselves. So I wonder if people are aware of that, and they perhaps go into a cemetery where an area is a bit scruffy because those graves are not being tended. And once again, blame us for that. So, I mean...
And we do make it clear in the survey that we don't. Our responsibility is not the actual gravestones and grave sites in that regard. But we do find that people still comment on those things, and what's really hard to do is get that complete separation. Even if we tell them we want you to think more widely. Like for example, with the overall satisfaction score, we're asking them the reasons why they're dissatisfied. Sometimes with the organisation as a whole, one very specific interaction with the organisation that hasn't gone well for them, and it's then sort of put across the whole lens of I'm dissatisfied with the council's performance. And we do ask them to think more broadly, but often that comes back that it's been one very specific interaction, and I think that's something that we're trying to remind staff about and to be very mindful of, and all of us actually, that every single interaction that we have with people can actually influence that person's perception of how they feel about the entire council, and it can be something very minor and can cloud their opinions.
Cool. You're good, Pauline. That includes us as well. So, Yanni. Yeah.
Thank you. Okay. So, just in regards to the cemeteries, I am aware of some issues that people have had, and I've been trying to get them raised through the organisation. Are we going to be able to get some discrete reporting around the cemeteries, the comments, and what we might do to improve?
Yeah, the comments can be made available in terms of the verbatim comments that people gave in terms of what they saw as the best aspects and the improvement aspects. Yeah.
Okay, I think that would be quite useful. Staff will be aware of the concerns. In regards to roading, do you know when the asset management maturity report will come out around understanding what's happening in that space in regards to the condition of roading and footpaths?
We are not part of that, so I can't advise.
I think that's with David Griff.
Because in terms of like looking forward, I do think, you know, it would be good just to get a greater sense of
Cool. So let's.
how we're understanding.
Cool.
the
Okay.
condition.
Next one.
Yeah. Okay. So, yeah, I just to get the ward data.
No,
which
we've
is-
already heard that. So
Yeah.
you got another one?
Sorry. So we will be able to get some of that for the point of contact survey.
No.
Not really, no. Not the point of contact surveys. There's,
Don't worry, Kath. It's been asked and answered previously. So,
So
that's
we're
fine.
not because we have had it in the past.
Great. Well, the answer is no. So. Okay. Have you got different questions? No. Excellent. Mark.
Thank you. I'm interested around the timing of the survey in regards to the Bromley stench issue. Did this sort of take in that time frame that this would have been going on, or?
the general service satisfaction survey was in field from, I think it was around the 7th or 8th of January to about the 2nd of February. So the issue was present during that time. So yes.
Yeah, because I can see some comments there come out about it, but I was sort of
Yeah.
wondering how that would correlate to some of the satisfaction.
For consistency, it's run at the same time every year, so it's not a choice.
We don't turn it off early or start it later or anything like that. Okay, Aaron.
Yeah, so again, it's on the roading one because this is public facing, and this might be for Stephen or even Sam, and it goes to your point around Sam around the constant feedback and what can we do. Can we have a rate the road voting system? So each year everyone puts in their worst bit of road, and then the top 3 seriously get looked at, and if they are, I mean, it could get skewed. You go, oh, the staff turned up, there's nothing wrong with this bit of road because some students thought it would be funny for 10,000 of them to vote. But generally, you'd get reasonable feedback. That way we're dealing with the roads that the public find are the worst.
Maybe we pick that up in that workshop.
Okay.
Yeah. Yep. Cool.
Yeah,
Okay.
it's still in bad
Kelly?
condition, but it's...
Yeah, my question really is about around the relationship between the top 5 things most needing improvement. I just wonder whether it would be possible to look at the effect of information and communication on people's perceptions of the issues with roads, council decision-making, footpaths, etc. I just think that there's, from my personal experience of dealing with residents of the Burwood Ward over the last 4 years, is that their misinformation about why something is being done and how much it's going to cost.
Okay, cool. So you
that
questions
sort of stuff.
asked that. Yep.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I think communication and sometimes explaining a bit better what some of the reasons are. You know, we had that issue with community parks presentation a while back, and doing more explanation, providing more about why maintenance is done at certain times and not at others, or why the grass may be a bit longer, does certainly help. So I think communication can be part of the solution in terms of people understanding the challenges we face.
Yeah, because I mean, Sam's talking about quick wins, and I think that if we explored communication, maybe that would be a big step forward.
It's important to note that a lot of our big interface with the community is through contractors, not just staff. So it's 2 sets of people that we would need to work with there.
Okay, cool. Thank you, Kelly. Good questions. Andre, is our... Oh, you're good? Yeah, okay. Excellent. So that the mayor's happy to move that, deputy mayor's happy to second it. Is there any discussion? Oh, Peter's got one thing.
Just one thing. Look, quick observation. There's definitely some things to work on in there, but it's a great set of results. But it is just one set. I'd urge you to join the dots on the range of things you've seen this morning. So service delivery, capital delivery, budgets, resident satisfaction, Te Kaha on time and budget. The list sort of goes on. Having done this job in a lot of places, it's obvious to me that we are squarely looking at a Christchurch renaissance. The question is, you know, it's come hard earned. What do we do next? And so I'm segueing to the LTP here, and we'll be coming back to you next month with workshops to get cracking on that in earnest.
If you want to keep talking, you just go for it. That's great.
No.
I think it's no, it is really good though, and I think, you know, and I probably didn't help starting that off with going straight to roading, because we always have a tendency to go to the issue, but you know, it shouldn't be lost on us, all the work that's done by thousands of people to deliver this for the city. So it's a really good result.
Renaissance. I like it. Peter,
So
well
on
done.
that note, all in favour? Against? That's carried. Great. Well done, team. Thanks very much. Christchurch NZ, come on up. Welcome along. Just turn those green, press the buttons on those things and it'll...
Yeah, that one.
Yeah.
Hello. Morena, good morning. We're here, the purpose for today is to share the Q2 results for Christchurch NZ, just take that temperature check at the halfway point of the year. I'm happy to say we're seeing strong momentum right across the different parts of the organisation. Obviously we have tourism, business attraction, major events and city identity, and some really good progress being seen. The board, you'll be aware, we monitor 9 levels of service, and that we've agreed with you, the council, and we are on track for all 9 of those levels of service at this stage. You'll be aware that we are transferring the urban development function, and as part of that transfer, we do expect to return around $1 million of unspent funding to council at year end. The transition of the urban development function will be completed on the 20th of April. We're also tracking ahead on external funding. You'll be aware that we've talked before about one of our objectives is to reduce our reliance on ratepayer funding, and so external funding is one of the important measures that the board looks closely at. And the fact that we're tracking ahead on that shows both the team's hard work in this area, but also the attractiveness of Christchurch to central government and international partners who are really putting their money where their mouth is, so to speak. Finally, from me, I'm going to hand over to Ali, who'll take you through the detail of the report, but I just really wanted to thank councillors for their ongoing support, your commitment to understanding the work of this organisation and what it does in terms of how it grows jobs, attracts investment and helps to build a thriving city. It's really important to us that we can have your continued support, so I wanted to thank you for that. So, Ali. Awesome, thank you. So look, just to recap on that purpose that Lauren just briefly talked about, Christchurch NZ exists to create jobs and to grow the city's wealth. And we want Christchurch to be more prosperous and more vibrant, more brilliant, really, all year round. We also, however, help to support council revenue directly. For example, December saw the highest month of international arrivals through Christchurch Airport since records began, so that's another way we help. We finished the year, as Lauren mentioned, with a surplus of 1.17 million. Most of that funding is committed to activity that will be happening in Q3 and Q4, plus, of course, there's that underspend from the urban development transition, which will come back to council at year end. That urban development transition will also see our ongoing funding in future years reduced by 1.8 million every year. We've also secured, as Lauren mentioned, quite a lot of external funding. In the last 12 months, we've received 2.5 million in competitive central government funding, and that continues to be a real focus for us. 3 really quick insights from our economy team. So Christchurch and Canterbury both grew faster than the national economy in the year to December. Our unemployment rate is also noticeably lower than the other major centres, Auckland and Wellington. And international tourism is rebounding really strongly. And as I mentioned, arrivals through Christchurch Airport reached 96% of pre-COVID levels and grew 21% year on year, which is more than double the national average. And again, as Laura mentioned, we're on track to meet all 9 of our levels of service. I've just highlighted 3 of them here. Some of them we've already exceeded, like our business events bid target. And we're also really close to reaching our annual target for mills and trade engagements, and well on track with our business support engagements. We also measure outcomes, KPIs. They're mainly measured at year end, and many also naturally land in the second half of the year, thanks to major events and the summer tourism season. Right now, we're expecting to meet all of them except possibly that long-lasting job one. We've set ourselves a really ambitious target of 500 years of work, of long-term work. Last year, our target was 180, with a stretch target of 220, so we have been deliberately really ambitious there. We will easily exceed the targets we set last year, but that one's really difficult to target. We'll continue to push for it. We want this to be something we achieve, so we've got quite a lot in play.
And behind all those measures, there's a lot of activity. This snapshot, I'm not going to go through this in detail, but this snapshot gives you a breadth of the work happening across the organisation in every quarter, and I've deliberately split it into the innovation and business growth work that we do with enterprises and businesses, and the visitor economy and city promotion work that we do, so you can see the kind of work that we're doing. But I'm going to focus on 3 highlights. Before I do that, I just wanted to have a really quick word about growth sectors, because they underpin so much of the work that we do. And a growth sector, for us, is an area where Christchurch has 3 things. One, it has something special, something that makes it unique to Christchurch or sticky here. One is that it has an opportunity of scale. It's something that's worth going after. It's big enough to chase. And the third is that there's local momentum. It's really important that there's businesses already doing things in these sectors, because at the end of the day, private sector is what makes the economy grow, not us. We just facilitate it. And the 5 sectors that we have as growth sectors across the bottom there meet all 3 of their targets. Now, why do growth sectors matter? They drive productivity. We know that New Zealand has a productivity issue. And we're working really closely with MB and other parts of government, and our approach around growth sectors is really well aligned to national thinking, which is really important. Now, the reason I'm talking about that is that 2 of our highlights this quarter are in areas of growth sectors. I'm going to start with the aerospace strategy. This is probably our most advanced growth sector. Kelly will know it well. He was on our aerospace leadership group for a while, and Celeste will be joining us on that group later on today, I think. But this quarter we shifted from developing the strategy through to strategy implementation. The New Zealand Aerospace Summit, which was hosted here in Christchurch in October, was the biggest yet, and it benefited from being right after the International Astronautical Congress, don't say that fast, in Sydney, which meant that we were able to piggyback on that and attract more international attendees. And the summit alone delivered close to $1 million in economic value, and it generated really important commercial conversations and investment interest. Around the summit, we hosted about 40 international VIPs, including people from NASA, for tours of Christchurch aerospace sites, and that really strengthened our relationships with some of our Space City Network partners. It's not just been about the summit. In the last quarter, we're co-leading a national aerospace workforce plan with the New Zealand Space Agency, and we've completed early work on a potential aerospace hub at the Wigram Air Force Museum site. Our second highlight is another growth sector, that's the Antarctic. And the Antarctic season opening is a major opportunity to showcase Christchurch's strengths in science, innovation and extreme environment capability. And we worked with the Mayoral Office to coordinate an 8-event programme across 6 days with representatives from 17 nations. And the programme sparked new international research and investment conversations, created commercial opportunities for Christchurch companies, strengthened diplomatic ties, and supported pathways from education into local industries. And it's just worth mentioning that the Explorers Day drew more than 3,000 families, which helps to inspire our next generation of scientists and explorers. And the last highlight I want to talk about is our on-show campaign. Whilst growth sectors support long-term productivity, it is equally important to keep Christchurch lively and attractive all year round, especially in the shoulder seasons. That supports our hospitality, retail and visitor economy. And so Q2's on-show spring campaign did exactly that. We aligned our city marketing with a portfolio of 12 major events, and we ran a coordinated campaign across New Zealand and Australia. The season was diversified this year by bringing in the Christchurch Spring Fashion Festival. That broadens the audiences for the campaign and the city's appeal. And the results were strong. We had over 116,000 people attend those events, 43,000 visitors, nearly 64,000 visitor nights, and around $15 million in estimated visitor spend. And I just want to mention that the digital performance also exceeded previous years, helping Christchurch to achieve really good national and international visibility. Looking ahead to what's coming up, it's a quiet Q3. She lied. We are going to be hosting, we did host the Silicon Valley investors from the Far Out 4x4 convoy. I'll talk to you next time I come along about that. We're continuing to deliver power-up events to support more women into some of our growth sectors. We're helping Christchurch businesses access support through MB's AI advisory pilot, and we're supporting a big lineup of events. Electric Avenue, the first supercars event in the South Island, and of course the Super Round over Anzac weekend. That's it from me. Thank you for your time. Any questions?
Hey, great, Ellie. Thank you, and thank you both for coming in. We've got a few questions. I've got two, and one of them was that last one. Can you just tell us a bit more about that AI advisory work?
Yes, so that's being delivered through MB. So when Callaghan Innovation was disbanded, a lot of the support services that were offered there moved over to MB. So that's delivered through our central government funded one-on-one business team. So what we're able to do is we're able to work with local companies that are looking to build their capability in AI and offer them some funding support to de-risk that.
Right, okay. It'd be good to, maybe at some stage get a bit more on that.
Yeah, great.
Because we're sort of posed with that challenge here as well, is how can we drive efficiency with technology? And so if there's lessons that you're picking up that we could apply or vice versa, then we should share it with the community. So
really happy to do that.
That'd be cool. Hey, the other one is before I get on, can you just give us a bit of and sorry, I haven't given you a heads up, but it'd be your bread and butter, just around, I guess, what's happening at the moment in the world, how you see that playing out in the Christchurch economy.
Yeah, look, I think it's we were just talking about it before we came in here. Look, it's a fascinating and difficult time for the world, and I think we keep thinking that next year is going to be easier for our businesses and our economy, and then it never is. This is going to have a long tail. I don't know if anyone heard the Reserve Bank governor speak yesterday, but this is not just about what's happening now and how quickly the conflict ends and how quickly we manage to survive the fuel rations or challenges that are going to come with that. It's about the long-term impact on the economy. We are just starting to develop an internal work plan where we think about how much do we start to think about this in a similar way to the way we thought about COVID. I think it will have an impact on our international visitors in particular. I think people's discretionary spend is going to be much, much less. And that means we might need to think about how we pivot in terms of how we continue to keep that, particularly the vibrancy around. There's always opportunities though, and the opportunities would be more around the business attraction side. So Christchurch in New Zealand is going to become more and more attractive as a place for people to come and invest and live and build their lives in a world that continues to be chaotic elsewhere. So it's about making sure that we minimise the dips and maximise the opportunities.
Okay, no, really good. Thank you. I've got Phil. Because Phil's got to go. Yep.
So, thank you, Ellie. Could you just explain to the table where you took me the other day, where in Maces Road, and just give a very broad brush thing on what they do with those rocks and...
Oh, you're asking a chemist to talk about chemistry. I couldn't be happier. So this is a brilliant company called Aspire Materials. So they take, they're in our clean tech growth sector. So just to sort of anchor them, so you know why we're working closely with them. There is a rock called olivine. I don't know if there's any geologists in the room. Very prevalent around the country, and they take the fines or the dust of the olivine, and they put it into an acidic solution, and then they slowly increase the pH. And each time they increase the pH, a different fraction drops out. So, and each of those fractions has huge value. So the first fraction that drops out is activated silica. It's amazing. So it is basically a carbon zero alternative to what currently goes into cement. But it's not just that it's carbon zero, it actually sets faster and it's stronger, so it has functionality, which means if you're setting a concrete pipe in water, this stuff is gold. So that's their first fraction. They then have magnesium hydroxide. They produce the purest magnesium hydroxide in the world. Most of it comes at the moment, magnesium hydroxide comes from Australia or China. The Australian stuff is produced using natural gas, so you can imagine what's happening to the price of that. The Chinese stuff has quite a lot of impurities in it. Ours is a really great magnesium hydroxide. If you put that in water, it basically sequesters carbon out of the atmosphere and creates climbers chalk. So it is a really, again, a bit of a magic material, and they very much want to trial it at Bromley. They want to do a small pilot where they can just do between 10 and 100 kilos in the Bromley plant, because they believe, based on the lab science, that it will both reduce the odour and increase the settling rate of the sludge. And then they have other fractions that come out as well. So brilliant company, really, really high quality investors, good capital runway, and a company we really believe really strongly in.
Great. That's fair. We should pick that up.
Phil's on it, I think.
Oh, yeah. Oh, that always worries me. Maybe, maybe talk to Brent and Mary, and he can announce it. Okay, we've got Mark.
Thank you. Hey, loving the work you guys are doing with this. One thing I'm what we're interested to tease out is your interaction with existing businesses who are going through hard times and thinking about whatties. And
Yeah.
how we can sort of look at the idea of maybe not losing.
Yeah, look, so we actually just had a board strategy day earlier on this month, and we talked a lot about retention and attraction because it both have a really important role to play. The Antarctic is a growth sector, for example, where it's about retaining what we already have rather than necessarily attracting new business. And Heinz Watties is another really good example. We are, as a city, very symbiotically reliant on Canterbury. So, and the primary sector, industry and food, fibre, agri-tech, all that stuff is very, very big part of our economy. And if we don't reinvent it, then it will get reinvented. So that's why it is a growth sector, and we're working really closely with people at Lincoln, UC, and in the private sector to look at how we can lean into that economy to make sure that we build in a resilience. So that we, you look at global chaos, resilience is really important, but that we also help to make sure that those businesses that are already here are sticky and stay here. It's really hard when you're dealing with some of those multinationals because they're looking at cost cutting and consolidation. It's very hard to push against that tide. So the best way of doing it is to make them really anchored here where we're the only place they can do it.
Hey, thank you for that. Look, it's really timely you're here. I just had a note through, and you'll probably get it too, saying white hot demand for Electric Avenue 2027 tickets. 55,000 tickets pre-registered in the first 6 hours. So how good is that for Christchurch?
Isn't it just?
Tyler and then...
Hey, can I just say something on Electric Ave? Sorry, one of the great things about Electric Ave is that it really helps us to attract talent here. You know, that's why it's so heavily embedded into the economic development work that we do, because if you get youth wanting to come and study at UC because of Electric Ave, which is a genuine thing, then you're getting people that potentially we can keep in our city as great talent to help to grow those growth sectors of the future.
Great. Tyler? And then I've got Kelly, Yanni and Tim, and then we'll...
Kia ora, kia ora.
Kia ora.
The question I've got actually is something came out a day ago talking about ASB Bank's feedback, and the Chair's favourite radio show with Mike Hosking was talking about Christchurch being the leader in the country in terms of economic development and output. Would you be able to give some feedback on as to why you think that is, other than what you've been talking about?
I think cities go in cycles. And we have some incredible infrastructure that you have brilliantly put your neck on the line for and invested in, which enables us to really attract people to this city. A city needs to be attractive, vibrant, and interesting for people to want to move there. So that's one thing. We've got brilliant infrastructure. I think we've got a really strong and diverse economy. So we have an economy that is not reliant on a single sector, which means that we can manage shocks much better than those like Queenstown that are very heavily reliant on tourism, or Wellington that's so reliant on the civil service. So having a resilient economy is really helpful. And then I think what enables us to make the growth sectors really work is we've got such a strong manufacturing base that kind of spits out these incredible advanced manufacturing kind of spillover industries like aerospace, and then we start to really be able to attract good talent in here. So it's a mixture of things. What I really, and it was really interesting listening to that conversation just before from your previous presenters, it's about what comes next. How do we keep our foot on the pedal? How do we make sure that we stay at the top of the curve? Because Auckland's coming back. So, you know, they've opened the convention centre now and they will be able to start to attract different things. How do we stay at the top of the curve? And that's what we're looking at as an organisation, to make sure we're thinking long term.
To your point, Wellington's a cautionary tale, isn't it? In terms
really
of a
is.
place that was the cooler civil capital, and it really isn't right now. So, you know, momentum, that's something we're very focused on. What does the next phase look like?
I also saw something that was really surprising, that business confidence since before the earthquakes has been at its highest, and particularly over the country, has been extremely high. Would you be able to tell us anything in regards to that? Because we do hear from obviously the Commerce Chamber of Commerce and other organisations about potential council intervention with certain things, but there's obviously things outside of that, which means visitor economy, etc. Would you be able to talk a bit more on that?
I think it will be interesting to see the next lot of business confidence, because I think it might take a slight knock. It is higher here, and I think some of it is, you know, kind of confidence breeds confidence. So we are definitely in a position where it is easier to attract good talent. We are definitely in a position where it's easier to attract more capital. There is a lot of good capital out there. We've just got to find the right people to match them with. So I think some of those challenges that businesses face, particularly during COVID, have gone. And I think people can really see that. I come back to Sam's question about the global chaos. There are a lot of people that want to come here, particularly out of North America at the moment. So things like the Far Out tour, which I just did, and I'll come and talk about that in the next quarterly update. It's remarkable how many high net worth individuals want to come and make a life here, and they want to invest here and grow here, and that helps to grow business confidence because they can see other people from offshore believing in their products.
Thank you.
Okay, cool. We've got Kelly, Yanni, Tim and Andre, and then I'm keen to wrap it up.
Yeah, thanks, Ellie. Just my question is just around those companies in the aerospace sphere, Fabrum, Kia Aerospace, Dawn, etc., and Tawhaki. Are they growing at the rate that some of them were growing a year ago? They were sort of almost doubling in size. Is there still a lot of initiative in that space in terms of the work that they're getting?
Absolutely, yeah, probably growing faster than we anticipated. We're doing a piece of work at the moment to look at how many billions we think the growth sectors can add to the Christchurch economy by 2035, and I think our current estimates are low based on what we're seeing out of some of those companies.
Cool. Yanni?
Yeah, thank you for the report. Just in regards to the economic update, this will be probably my regular question, but I'm really interested in what monitoring we're doing about the growth in inequity and how that's being addressed. I guess just to put some context on that, like seeing the homelessness, the rise in homelessness, for example, in the city, rough sleeping, people without houses in the red zone.
Okay.
So is there any indicator that we're looking at to measure the prosperity and the impact that it's having, from the bottom to the top, and how that gap is?
Okay, yep.
I think the short answer is no, we don't have a measure that looks at that. But I think it's a really fair question as we go into our next set of KPIs, because it is a really important measure. What we've got to make sure we do, though, is we don't spread ourselves too thin. We're a small agency with a limited amount of funding, and we can't do everything. So we work really closely with partners like MSD on that, and also the Central City Business Association, who are looking at a lot of those factors as well. But I think it's a fair question.
And then is there any... after the earthquake, we got a heat map done of sort of like economic activity kind of geographically. Is there any information that we can have around looking at what's happening at a local geographic suburb level around what's happening in terms of things like either job loss or job creation or small businesses?
Possibly. And again, that might be a space that AI can help us. We're actually looking at 2 heat maps at the moment. We're doing one which is looking at visitor movements around the city when they land here to see where they go and move around. So that's one that will be coming quite soon. We're also looking at a precinct type map around the burgeoning clean tech precinct in Bromley or aerospace in Wigram, or the different sort of areas that are popping up naturally, to see if we can start to lean into that a little bit. Again, I'll take that offline because that's the kind of thing that we might be able to use AI to do some data mining for.
Thank you. Tim and then Andre, and then we'll wrap up.
Thank you. And on your slide 7, where it's got visitor economy and marketing, congratulations on the money that you've got from MB, etc. But following on from what you said about how we stay on the top, and we've got to look at the visitor market, I suppose. With regards to the Central South Island visitation and discovery, and I'm presuming that's Fairlie, Geraldine, Twizel, etc. Do we know the percentage of tourism, whether it's international or local, that come through our airport and go through, just as in use Christchurch to go through? So if we have a better understanding of how many are coming through Christchurch, is there an opportunity to keep them for an extra day or 2 or whatever it is? So it'd be good to know.
Cool.
Yep.
Good question.
So the answer is yes, but that is exactly what we're trying to do more. We're trying to increase the length of stay here in Christchurch before they disperse. When we get the money from MB, part of the criteria that go with that contestable funding is that we've got to disperse people around the South Island as well. And that's really beneficial, particularly in the off-seasons, because we can talk about skiing in Mount Hutt and all those good things that we don't, or when the museum's closed and we don't have things that we can do in Christchurch. But yeah, absolutely. For us, as ratepayer funded, we want people to stay in Christchurch for as long as possible, and that's a key target for us.
Could we get those numbers? Because it would be, I think, for interest of... Thank you. Cheers.
Great, thank you. And I've got Andre to wrap it up.
Thank you. Nice positive one to wrap up. Just there's a comment here in our resident survey that come back that stood out to me. It said, I think the Concerts and Festivals being held here at the Best New Zealand, we already know that. But the part I hadn't thought about before, is it says, I feel 10 times safer going to concert here than in Auckland. Which is massive, right? That's massive for people and their decisions on where they visit and what they go to. And I hadn't thought about this, right? Are you seeing the same sort of sentiment that we're definitely sort of turning a dial and that people are seeing the city as safer to visit than others and that it's making a difference in people wanting to come here?
I can't quite remember the data. It's a question that we ask in our annual brand health survey. So again, I'll go back and have a look at it. It's been about 9 months since we did that. We're about to go out and do another. So I'll get back to you. My guess is yes, and I think it's the walkability and the lighting makes a huge difference.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, absolutely. The fact that it's right in the centre, Hagley Park, rather than having to get public transport and then walk down back streets, it makes a huge difference.
Yeah.
So,
and a dead new stadium in the city rather than...
Exactly.
Thank you very much.
Excellent. Okay, well, I think we're there. So the Mayor's happy to move this and Andre's happy to second it. Great. So we'll put that to vote. All in favour? Against? That's carried. Great. Thank you. We'll see you on Friday. Be good. Okay. Let's go to CCHL. Brian, welcome along. Matt. And hi, Sue, down the back there.
No. Not a new one. Thanks. I try not to wear the same one. Thanks, Sam. Appreciate the opportunity to present the second quarter, which is our half-year result, and Matt will step through that. But just before I hand over to Matt, we'd just like to acknowledge the challenging circumstances, principally of the fuel crisis, and to reassure you about the focus that has within the subsidiary companies at this time. The primary focus of the companies is on operational planning to maintain services, and then also operational scenario planning and contingency planning around various options and what may or may not occur. Obviously, our attention also turns to the impact on earnings, and we can take some comfort from the fact that the group had a very strong first half, which Matt will speak to, and exactly what the impact of earnings is and how that plays out is difficult to predict in any meaningful way. So all we can really do is monitor that even more closely than we normally do. And we do know that the longer this goes on, the greater the impact. But we will keep you updated as we get our head around that and as the circumstances present themselves.
Thanks, Brian. And with that sort of sobering note, I'm pleased to report a 20% uplift year on year in our half-year net profit. So, and it genuinely is a really, really good result. We've seen passenger volumes up, I think, 6.7% year on year at the airport. The bulk volumes up at the port 7.6% year on year at LPC. So really positive signals there. City Care is having a lot of success with winning new contracts and renewing existing contracts, so really positive there. Some challenges, some of the network revenues at Orion are slightly below forecast, but we'll pick those up in due course, and some churn over at Enable. in the internet fibre sector. So, little bits of softness, container volumes at the port. So there's overs and unders in amongst all of this, but really positively, a great bottom line result, which sees us track well towards the end of the year and gave us the comfort to pay the $30 million dividend to council in December. I missed slide 1, but I think I spoke to it, so we can carry on to. In terms of just some of the non-financial outcomes, the Associate Director Program, approximately 200 applicants from across Canterbury, with ultimately a very difficult job to actually find the 9 successful applicants that were placed across all of the group, including Venues o Tatahi and Christchurch NZ. Health and Safety Forum, that's a new feature this financial year, and we've got absolute buy-in from across the group and within council. That's less about specific incidents and managing that, but really about sharing new, innovative ideas. Just one of the discussions was regarding working at heights and the use of drones and that sort of technology to enhance what we do. So, just sharing innovative ideas across the group, and we think that's a really good forum that's working well within the group. On the DE&I side, the annual Te Puna Manawa, the Women Leadership Program, is concluding next month with another successful cohort having been through that. There was a Women's Network event that was well attended from across the group last night. Our He Huanui cultural competency programs getting well attended. Pan group attendance at lunchbox learning sessions, and our ethnicity data collection is very much underway. Just on the climate side of things, I'm conscious we're coming back to council in the near future regarding that, and it's very topical, particularly given the fuel situation that Brian mentioned earlier, and we'll share more with you about our plans there, which is really a big fleet conversation around how we decarbonise the fleet and the port assets. So more to come in the next month. In terms of the traffic lights, and I'm conscious we've got a lot of these, so summarising it into a table for review is a little bit of an art. But the high level headline number is that 92% of our targets are tracking as expected. There are always a number of these which are potentially ambitious around what we hope to achieve, or modest missing. I could go into some of these if need be, but this is an area of significant scrutiny across the group, and really actually happy to be successfully reporting 92% as our group targets of all targets there at 249. It's a rather extensive list. Just in terms of a couple of colourful pictures in terms of the group and where we've been out in the community. You've got the Orion Kinetics Annual Connection Conference. That's an event to showcase the electricity industry, recognise expertise, showcase the technology, and attract people to the industry. So proud to be sponsoring that and leading that here in Christchurch. You see the Eco Central fleet electrification continues, and if you've at a loose end on Saturday, you can head along to the Eco Central Open Day and see the new loader that's being commissioned. I think it needs a bucket or something like that and it will be ready to go and operational. And with the fuel situation, they'll probably be keen to get that plugged in as soon as possible. So that's on this Saturday morning. On the far right, you've got the LPC Port Saddle Covenant established there. So that's a really meaningful step forward in terms of our biodiversity efforts out there at LPC. 17 hectares put in with a covenant across it. I think the target is about 54. So a big step in the right direction with respect to that. And that was a well-attended event with community groups, schools last December. And probably it wasn't drafted with this in mind, but quite a topical one there with the City Care driveways. I think it was a 4% increase in kilometres, whilst 21,000 litres of fuel saved from a driving awareness course and learning. So just point that out, and the more we can do on that front, it goes in so many ways. It's a cost saving and it's a fuel saving. It's a carbon emissions saving. So proud of that outcome. Happy to leave it there and take any questions on the report.
Yeah, great. Thank you very much. That's really good and good results. Really good results, but also good to just temper it with what's coming. And it's great. And we're really confident with you guys at the helm that you'll be in good hands. We do have a section in PX as well, so just bear that in mind for anyone with questions. But we'll go Tyler. Yep.
Kia ora, guys. Maybe for PX, but referring back to the targets, you probably would have expected this question. There are a lot of targets to achieve across the group, but the ones obviously that are standing out are the ones that won't be achieved. Which ones are those?
Off the top of my head, I can't recall exactly all of them. I can give some context. There were some health and safety incidents that were non-injury, but potentially of substance. There was the connection service level agreement in terms of connection times that enable, and there was a very subtle variance to their uptime for their network. So a number of little things. There's an LPC one here.
Because there's two LPC and one city care.
So LPC relates to TRIFA and LTI frequency rates, and that's one that's been off target since earlier in the year, but it's trending in the right direction. That particular one. The city care one was a fall.
So that's the EMPS.
That's Orion had a fall. There was a net promoter score over at City Care, and that's something we've spoken to them about. It's not a bad result. It's the target was 15 and it's at 0, and that's there are probably some questions around is an employee net promoter score the right measure, but it is one that's on the target list this year.
It was an employee net promoter score, not a customer.
Got you.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Great. So this has been moved by me, seconded by Victoria. Yanni?
Yeah, thank you. And I just got some answers back today, this morning, about the LPC workforce, but I was really keen just to understand a little bit more about how you're monitoring the letter of expectation. So obviously in our letter of expectation, we did ask around looking at the good industrial relationships, supporting the union, and the directly employed staff. The answers I've got back, maybe I didn't quite ask the question the right way, but what I was keen to understand is across the companies, the question is across the companies, how are we monitoring the direct employment of staff versus contracting out of staff or
you've asked it there.
Yeah, so not sure of the exact answers you've received. They might have been ones we'd shared, but there's over 100 employees have been added into the LPC workforce, directly employed workforce, over the last 5 years. In terms of contracting out, that is something that occurs in the day-to-day business of LPC. I think there's something like 50 contractors that are used there on a daily basis. That's not new. That's just as part of business as usual operations. So I'm not sure I'm not sure there's something we're missing here in terms of is there something I should be concerned about? We're certainly engaged with the LPC staff, the management team, and I understand they're going through bargaining at the moment.
So just in terms of, understanding what the trends are, if there was a trend away from direct employment to contracting out, how would we pick that up versus the expectation the letter of expectation that we've given?
Sounds like Matt's just said the trend has gone the other way, but I don't, unless I've misunderstood.
Yeah, there's certainly no, if there were large-scale outsourcing plans, that's something that CCHL would be aware of and engage with, and would be an issue to potentially raise with council. That's not our intent, to not maintain a directly employed workforce there, with respect to frontline operations.
Right. And does that go across all of our companies, or it's just particular to the port? I know the question I asked was just around the port, and the letter of expectation was pretty clear about LPC. But I'm just wondering if we monitor that across the other companies as well.
it's not a figure we specifically monitor the use of contract resource within the other entities, but it's not something we've seen go in a particularly concerning direction.
Thanks. And just the final question from me is,
Okay, last one.
Yeah, the last one was around the global situation, right? Like, at what point is there a trigger that would lead to action being taken now ahead of some sort of crisis? I'm just not quite sure where that point is. When do we start doing things differently to prepare for what?
That's actually a really good. I reckon stop there. That's a good question. When
Yeah,
or
and
if we do things differently.
The planning has been underway for this, but they're working through. Every subsidiary is working through this. Has plans around how to manage fuel in a crisis, but we don't have any crystal ball as to how long and this goes on for, and the impact is significant. There are cost increases coming through just about across the board for all of our companies, and working through that is sort of the immediate. That's a challenge, but they're focused on. They are key infrastructure entities, and keeping the lights on in whatever business they're involved in is absolutely critical. They understand that, and they're doing. Preparations in terms of how they can use more EVs, working with the industry bodies, prioritisation, triaging work that needs doing. They're doing everything they can to prepare for the worst case scenario, but there are severe repercussions for these businesses should this be have a prolonged impact on the country.
All right. Okay. So that's been moved by me and seconded by Victoria. So put that to the vote. All in favour? Against? That's carried. Great. We'll move to go into public excluded, and we'll resolve that we keep Brian, Matt, and Sue here, and also potentially Jackie Simons from the community board for item 27. So I'm not sure if she's outside or. Yeah, hang on. Is Jackie outside? Do we know? Or? Okay. So we'll move that. I'll move that. Andre will second it. All in favour? Against? That's carried. Great. Now, what